Today, we'll end our rural recovery series on a pretty heavy note: child sexual abuse in rural China. We lack official numbers to demonstrate the magnitude of such crimes, but compiled media reports from 2015 showed that more than 70% of the victims were between 7 and 14 years old. The lack of care and surveillance makes children especially vulnerable. Our reporter Feng Xin traveled to a village in Tieling in Liaoning province, where several young girls have fallen victims to one particular predator over a long period. And Feng Xin hears the voices of the victims' families and looks at what can be done to better guard China's rural children. Well, the names of the victims and their families have been changed, of course.
The days have been dark for Mr. and Mrs. Li as they consider the court's verdict after 9 months of prosecution. The predator who molested their 12-year-old daughter Lily and raped 3 other girls has been sentenced to 17.5 years in prison. But the Li family believes that the sentence was too lenient.
I'm absolutely discontented with the ruling. How can he just get away after causing so much harm to our children here?
My daughter said, "Mom, I don't want to go to school anymore." I don't. Her father cried, and I cried. The 3 of us just held each other and cried together.
The Lis survive on a small section of land by growing corn. They leave their house to farm in the very early morning each day, and their daughter often has to stay at home alone during the weekends and school holidays. It wasn't until July 2015 that Mr. Li found Lily with a new cell phone. She told him that it was a 60-year-old man who lived across the street gave it to her.
He texted obscene language and pornography to our daughter. I was just shocked.
To Mr. Li's surprise, those texts also mentioned the names of several other girls in the village. Mr. Li called the police, who arrested the man and found 2 other cell phones in his possession. It turned out that the offender often shot nude images of the young girls and filmed himself raping them. Mrs. Liang still can't accept the fact that her granddaughter Wei Wei was only 9 years old when she was first raped, and that the offender is a family relative. The rapes occurred more than a dozen times over the past 3 years. Most of the crimes took place in their very own house while the adults are away. Wei Wei's parents were seeking a living in the city, so it was Mrs. Liang who raised Wei Wei.
I asked my granddaughter, "How could you not tell me anything?" She said, "If I told you, he would kill me. You would also beat me and kill me." The man threatened and terrified her.
Prosecutors brought 3 rape and 2 molestation charges against the defendant in March, but the court did not support one of the molestation charges. That's because there was only a child's word against the defendant, and there wasn't any physical evidence to prove anything that happened 7 years ago.
She still remembered the clothes she was wearing on that day when we went to police interview last year. She grabbed me really tight and buried her face in my arms. She cried and was extremely terrified, as if she was in huge shame. Every child is a part of a mother's heart. No mother can accept such abuse of their child.
After multiple attempts to reach the prosecutor's office and court, no judicial officials made themselves available for comment. This village is 40 kilometers away from the nearest city. Few can imagine several girls have fallen victims of rape and molestation for so many times and for so long. Across China, the media reported about 340 child sexual abuse cases in 2015, almost 1 incident every day. Experts say this is just the tip of an iceberg because many more cases stay silent. Out of the reported cases, about 1/3 took place in rural areas, far less than cities. Experts say this doesn't mean child sexual abuse in countryside is any less severe than in cities, but because they are more difficult to be discovered and reported.
我刚上车，我看这小伙子，挺漂亮的，挺帅气的，是啊。
Beijing lawyer Xiao Juan volunteers to teach children about sexual abuse prevention. She has found that nearly 70% of such crimes were committed by acquaintances. Prosecutions and convictions often prove difficult to achieve.
难点最大的难点就是举证问题，是由于各种原因的瞒案不报。
The biggest difficulty is collecting evidence. Because of various reasons, many cases went unreported. This not only led to additional crimes, but also a loss of evidence and ineffective prosecutions and investigations.
然后在实务上，难以成案。
Volunteers and NGOs have been seeking measures to prevent child sexual abuse in urban and rural areas. One way is to teach children to protect their private body parts, recognizing danger and seeking help.
我们的愿望就是在全国让
We hope to make more children, in fact, all children in China receive our classes. Also, I think the country should increase penalties for predators. If the cost of crime is high, perhaps people are less likely to commit.
他就不容易去犯罪。
But for the children who never had a chance to learn about the dangers around them, the wounds can never be healed. Feng Xin, CCTV, in Tieling, Liaoning Province.